Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Every man deserves to know his T levels. Step into Game Day Men's Health Solon and get tested on us. There's no guesswork, there's no waiting, and it's just real answers. Mike, take it away.
Speaking of answers, that's why we have Zac Jackson in studio with us today. He was at the open Browns OTA session yesterday. It was an indoor practice, Zac, so it wasn't the full shebang. You guys are kind of stuck in one area of the indoor facility as opposed to when it's outside, you can roam around and see different position groups. In the first hour, we talked about everyone you saw who doesn't throw the football. The non-quarterbacks, that was in the first hour. We saved the quarterback discussion for this hour. So, Zac, the floor is yours. Empty the reporter's notebook on what you saw from all the quarterbacks yesterday at the open session of Browns OTAs.
Yeah, so for anybody that's catching up, it's a full practice. It's inside, so our viewing has changed, but it was a full practice. They get 2 hours, and they went 2 hours and maybe a second over. We're not telling on anybody. But, for the first hour plus, almost all of it was Deshaun Watson and the starting offense, who was there. Almost all of them were there at one end, and Shedeur Sanders at the two at the other end. There weren't many competitive reps, weren't any really competitive situations until the back half of practice. But over the course of practice, Deshaun got most of the reps with the one. Deshaun made the single most impressive throw of the day. In the second half of practice, when they limited it down, they went from two groups to one. You saw Shedeur in both a walkthrough session and in several competitive sessions with the ones. It was a rotation. All in all, it's pretty clear that Deshaun's ahead. And like I said, even sandwiched or his really great throw was sandwiched between one that should have been picked, and then the very next throw, he misses Jerry Jeudy on a comeback by 7 yards. That looked very familiar. It took me back to early 2024. Shedeur got in a 7-on-7, and he made a tight window throw, and it was like right on the money, and the next one was batted up in the air and picked off. So look, the online reactions, everybody's talking about, interception. Those will happen. What we don't know on the days we can watch and the days we don't watch is what are the coaches seeing? What are they teaching? What are they reinforce? Which plays do they have to run 6 times to get right? And then when they take that to 7-on-7, are the guys taking the easy ones? I will tell you one observation I have. Deshaun Watson used to hold the ball in 7-on-7, and it was the most maddening, inexplicable thing I have ever seen. And Tyvis, who played in the NFL, and me, who played Manchester youth football, we'd both say we've never seen that before, right? Deshaun Watson is holding the ball less than 7-on-7. The ball's coming out. Deshaun looks healthy. He's throwing it well. I would just caution and remind everyone that we've seen Deshaun Watson in May look like an NFL quarterback before. We have not seen that very much in September through November here in Cleveland.
How do you miss a receiver by 7 yards in 7-on-7?
It's tough to do. So there is a natural ugliness to this, Jason. And it is unfair to sit, whether you're filming and trying to get opinions or just observing,
right,
to jump to conclusions off one throw, one practice period, one anything. These guys had 3 days of minicamp, and yesterday was OTA 2. So I'm very much looking forward to 2 weeks from now when it's OTA 8. It should be crisper. We should be able to grade them on a little less of a curve and more on reality, and everything should flow faster. But Todd Monken is out there coaching these guys. He's saying words I can't repeat on this show. He's screaming when the ball's on the ground, and that's what happens. It's May football practice. There's bad snaps. There's guys in the right place. Guys get missed on comeback routes. Yeah. But then you hear Todd Monken say it's embarrassing to throw a pick in 7-on-7, and you're like, finally, some standards in this place.
So what'd you make of his comments?
I made that he was sending a message that you shouldn't throw a pick in 7-on-7. That goes back to, look, you're not getting rushed. You're not getting forced into mistakes. You're making your first read. You're making your second read, and you're throwing it away. There is no reason to jam the ball there. We'll live with interceptions when you're trying to make a play and make something happen, but they're not going to live with them when they're completely avoidable, which when there's no pass rush, they're almost completely avoidable.
What about Dylan and Dalen? I know we talked about Shedeur and Deshaun. We'll get back to them, but the other 2 quarterbacks in this room, clearly 3 and 4 on the depth chart right now.
Yeah, so Taylon Green is getting no competitive reps right now, which is very standard for a rookie who's not a first-rounder. He is learning the offense. He is behind the play, walking through, envisioning, jogging through. He's throwing after practice. So he's involved in the drills.
That's not what I heard last year.
No competitive reps, and that is very standard, even though it wasn't the case last year and we didn't hear. He has a howitzer for an arm, but man, he'll miss you from 4 yards away. He's got to add some touch. He looks like a more athletic Derek Anderson at this point, where when it looks pretty, but when he has to check it down, it's not. Dylan Gabriel looks rough out there. So he's clearly the 3. He's not involved in the competition based on anything we've seen. And when you go back to last year, I don't think that he will be involved in the competition. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, I think very much a real competition is going on. But Deshaun Watson is the leader of that competition, and Shedeur Sanders is number 2.
based on what you saw yesterday compared to what you saw from these guys in previous iterations in OTAs, other than Deshaun not holding the ball as long in 7-on-7, was there any noticeable difference between 2026 Deshaun and previous Deshaun, and the same thing with Shedeur, this version of Shedeur versus OTA Shedeur from last season?
To this point, no. I think the times that it was a pretty pass by Shedeur, you knew it. You knew it when it leaves his hand. You can tell in his body language, and he can really put the ball where it's supposed to be with touch. That's kind of his superpower, the accuracy. And when he knows where he's going, it goes there, and it looks much prettier than it's looked for 27 years out on that practice field. Deshaun looks like Deshaun. And I think they're headed, Mike, to an offense that's going to be really tight end heavy, really conservative, and try to use Deshaun's mobility to an extent. Dump it off to Fannin, run the ball a lot, throw screens, but roll out and let him create at times. I think that's kind of the goal. He can rip it. He has thrown over 2 practices. He's thrown the better deep ball. He's made the best throw of the day over 2 practices that we've seen. But it hasn't been much, and we're not, even if whether it was good, bad, or great, like we're not to the point where we've seen him build on it and really learn a lot about this offense because we're just too early for that.
You mentioned the best throw. Is that the Denzel Boston deep route on the left sideline?
Yeah, a double move, 7-on-7, but a double move, 50 yards in the air and right on the money. And Denzel Boston beat Tyson Campbell, who's a really good corner. Denzel Boston is off to a great start. He's a legit 6'4". He can run. I thought just in rookie minicamp, my impression was I was worried that he was going to be big and slow. He looks quick. He showed some straight line speed on that. So he's the rookie that stood out to this very, very early point.
Yeah. What do you make of the idea that Todd will put things into the offense that Deshaun is comfortable with? Because they overhauled the entire offense for Deshaun a couple of years ago, and it was an absolute disaster.
I think that's what you do by necessity. I think that's what they want to do. I've seen a lot of motion. I've seen a lot of slip screens, a lot of just take the layups and make him comfortable. What is Deshaun good at? Frankly, we don't know. Here we haven't seen
not
a ton
much
of it
in 6 years.
But I think he does throw on the move. I think Todd wants a mobile quarterback. I think what Todd's going to do is install the Baltimore offense. Obviously, you don't have Lamar, but you're going to install the Baltimore offense, play fullbacks, play tight ends, get rid of it quickly, move the pocket, and then refine. What does Deshaun like? What does whoever else like? What do we need to get better at here? So we're not seeing Casey Concepcion play with the ones yet. We didn't see Harold Fannin at all yesterday. This is going to be the leading receiver on this team again. But I think the basics are going to be run the ball, roll out, let the quarterback create to an extent. He's not Lamar. Nobody's going to be asked to, but you're going to be asked him to create.
I know it's an incredibly small sample size. One OTA and one open camp, tiny sample size. Well aware of that.
But here comes an insane question.
Well, no, but does it look like, from your opinion, Zach, and you were the one that 3 years ago, Greenbrier said Deshaun looks terrible, and turned out that he played terrible in the regular season. So I kind of trust your judgment when you see stuff with the quarterbacks. Does this look like a competent quarterback room? Does it look like this quarterback group has a ceiling that could lead the Browns to a more successful season than Vegas thinks? Or in totality between everyone, do you look at this and say the Browns may not have a guy?
No, it doesn't look any different right now. Now, would it if I did have great confidence in the quarterback instead of having none? No. But it just looks like an early football practice. And we've seen moments from Deshaun. Like I said, the most encouraging thing to me would be he's throwing the ball in 7-on-7. He's not staring guys down. Mm-hmm. So it's too early to know because Concepcion's going to be involved. Fannin's going to be the most involved. We're just not seeing it. And we're seeing brand new. Like what I told my editor before I wrote my story that's up there today, and when I went back through my notes podcasting and just talking to you on the phone last night, it was way more about the structure of practice and the way they were repping things in a fundamental instructional basis than anything else. Like, there's plays I noted, right? Good and bad. There's things I noted, but it was way more about the amount of repetition, the number of plays they were running and what they're just trying to establish, which tells me they're very early on in their installation.
When does it need to start to look acceptable in your mind?
Well, that's a great question because there's many years it's never gotten to that point.
That's true.
But I would think in the coach's mind, by the time you're into training camp, and I don't mean day one of training, but I think great progress has to be made because you're making corrections and you're deciding what you want to go forward with right now as you install. And then when you get into camp, they're going to start camp on, say, July 29th. And that leaves them 14 days, 12-ish practices before they're actually out there for a preseason game. So I think that day 5, day 8 of camp is when you see, because that's when you need the decision to be made. I think pretty much decided that it's Deshaun's job to lose. I don't know yet whether we're going to get that announcement on June 8th, June 10th, July 29th. But I think by then is when you say, okay, we're out of installation, we're into refining. Now it's time to try to go win a game. And that's a long way away from now. Because we have, up to 8 more OTAs and 3 days of minicamp. So we're talking 16-ish practices. That's a lot of growth you can make. Will it happen? I don't know.
What makes you think that, just out of curiosity, that they're in this mindset it's Deshaun's job to lose as opposed to being an actual open competition?
Well, I do think it's an open competition. I'm glad you asked. I'm trying to you're just seeing more time with the ones, with Deshaun. He's first. He's got the most time. He's, in 2 small sample sizes, has thrown better. So, it just tells me that he's ahead. I think they maybe soft launched on the outside the thought of going this, and I don't agree because people say that, these insiders say, well, we know that they're going to do it. Well, but can anybody explain why that's a good idea? No, nobody can. But from what I've seen, which is 4 hours of practice, I think he's slightly ahead. And I think the operation, more than anything, it's operational based, it's instructional based, but the operation is what's telling me that.
Let's look ahead till next Thursday when you come back in, sit in that same chair, and it's the second open viewing session for Browns OTAs. Open viewing session 1, installation, more operational. Do you think in a week from now they'll still be in that stage, or they'll be more towards a more traditional OTA level practice?
Yeah, no, they will be because it's laid out. We're going to install this on this day and this day. We're going to install this on this. But I do expect it to be a little bit crisper. I expect to see more Concepcion. I don't know that we'll see Fannin, and I'm not worried about him being out there in May. Obviously, he has a minor injury. He's standing there, no brace or anything, kind of watching practice, walking through. But you want to see it a little crisper, but this is very much in May. It's very much going to be installation and instruction based.
Just run through the schedule. So OTAs the next 2 weeks. So last time you'll see OTAs will be June 3rd, if my calendar is correct.
June 3rd will be the next to last one.
And then they go, that's the next to last one?
Yeah.
It's the last open viewing one, but they practice on Thursday too.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. That's the last week of OTAs. Mm-hmm. So then when is minicamp?
The June 9 to 11. Mandatory minicamp.
And then they break until?
And then they're off for 6 weeks.
Training camp.
Or so. It's later scheduled this year because the NFL doesn't start till after Labor Day.
It's a crazy schedule. Super Bowl's on
September.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It goes so deep into February now.
Yeah.
The last regular season game's the second week of January.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. But when you don't start till September 13th, this is the earliest Memorial Day can be and the latest Labor Day can be. So it's just calendar based. The NFL,
like that. Okay.
And they might eventually change off this, but they will not play on Labor Day weekend. That's the end of summer, and then football starts. So,
all right. That was Zac Jackson. He was there in the flesh, in the practice bubble in Berea. If the practice bubble is in Berea, right? It's in Berea. And Zach, we appreciate your firsthand insights into what you saw from Todd Monken and the rest of minicamp. We're going to talk a little bit about what Todd Monken said about those interceptions coming up at the end of the show because Todd and the previous regime could not be more different in how they handle the media.